Michael McCaffrey, Happy New Year and welcome back on the mother of all talk shows.
Happy New Year to you, George. Thank you for having me on, sir. And let me start by just saying, how dare you? How dare you slander cinema like that, sir? You are out of line. Unbelievable.
Okay, make the case.
I'm kidding. You're exactly right. So this year in particular, I think you're entirely right that cinema has lost its fastball. So in 2020, of course, cinemas were closed for the most part, and people just watch TV. And now films are becoming events, and the only type of movie that people will actually go to the cinema to see are those big events. So Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man movie, is a perfect example that here's something that is going to be enhanced by going to the theater to see on a big screen. Whereas all the movies, that we've loved through the years, whether it be Scorsese films or Tarantino films, those movies are disappearing and they're migrating towards, you can just watch them at home. So for example, Spielberg had West Side Story come out this year. Why he made that movie, I have no idea. There was already a perfectly fine West Side Story from 1961, but he makes the movie and nobody goes to see it. And nobody goes to see it because, first of all, older people are going to be the audience for that, and they're not going to want to expose themselves to coronavirus. Secondly, they can wait 45 days, and that movie is going to be available in their home to rent through Amazon Prime or on Apple TV or on Netflix. And in the old days, it used to be you had to wait 90 days or 120 days before you could see those movies. So now there's no incentive to risk going to the movies. Plus, there's just not very many good movies that come out. And this year in particular was pretty atrocious across the board in terms of quality. And for a cinephile like me, that's very unnerving because there is nothing like seeing a film in the theater. It used to be that theaters had 35 millimeter projectors and it would look different. The sound was amazing. And now every theater has digital projectors, which flattens the visuals, flattens the sound. And you're just seeing things bigger. You're not seeing them better. And of course, televisions at home, people have great TVs and they have great sound systems. You don't have to deal with the general public, right, who are checking their phones or making noise, et cetera, et cetera. You can pause it if you need to go to the bathroom or you want to get something to eat, you won't miss anything. So unfortunately, George, as always, you are correct. Cinema it's in a spiral now. I don't know if it's a death spiral, but it sure feels like it. And it's very unfortunate for someone like me who absolutely loves movies and lives for them. So.
Well, look, the last film I went to see was James Bond, and now they've murdered James Bond, and God knows what aberration they're going to conjure forth in his place. He can't be 007, he's been killed. It'll be, we're told, a non-binary or a woman identifying as a man or the other way around, or one of a multitude of possibilities, but I feel that franchise will begin to spiral also. I take your point about West Side Story. I am in the catchment audience for that, but I'm waiting to watch it on my rather big television screen with rather good sound system. You can imagine what my babysitting bill would be with 5 young children. It's just not worth my while going to see it at the cinema. But at the same time, the television is getting much better. It's not just that the movies are getting less attractive. It's that, I, for example, watched the whole of the Money Heist. If you'd said to me, come out to the cinema and see a Spanish heist movie, I would never in a million years have done it. But I did it on Netflix, and artistically, in every sense, it is a work of high art. If anybody out there still hasn't seen it, they really are missing something. So the best talent is migrating, isn't it, to the television, and that's got to be to Hollywood's disadvantage.
Well, without question, the talent has already migrated to television. There's no longer, for actors in particular, there used to be a stigma that you were a TV actor as opposed to a movie actor. And that's just simply not the case, and hasn't been for quite some time. But directors moving to streaming services is another big thing, because for a director, number one, you can get more control over your product. You're not going to be hectored by studio bosses wanting to cut this or add that and this and that. You're going to have more control. And secondly, if you're doing a series, let's say it's a 10 episode series, that's 10 hours that you have to tell that story.
Yeah.
As opposed to in a feature film, you're lucky if
1 hour, 20 minutes.
Half,
yeah.
And so just from a creative standpoint, it gives you so much more to work with. And you can go so much deeper into the story, into the complexity of the characters and things like that, which in film you just can't. And of course, the odd thing about that is that as audiences become less tolerant, as their attention spans diminish, they can tolerate a 10 episode show, which is 10 hours, but they can't tolerate a 2-hour movie, right? But so that's the benefit for creatives going to television. And the studios understand this, and they're doing it. Disney's the perfect example. So Disney has all these big, Marvel superhero movies that they throw out there and generally make good money. But they transitioned to television too. So now they have these TV shows that you have to watch to sort of keep up with the storylines in the movies. And they're doing it with Star Wars as well. So they have the new show, The Book of Boba Fett just started. And so Star Wars fans who are thirsty for any Star Wars stuff can watch this show. And so they understand that their viewing habits are changing radically and very quickly. And of course, COVID had a lot to do with it. And COVID seems more like the end than the beginning of that shift. It feels like people just aren't going to go back to the cinema to see things because, you can binge watch a show, you can not watch, if it comes out every week, you can wait till the end and watch it all at once. And you just don't have that sort of opportunity with cinema. And to me, it's disappointing because there is really nothing like, say, a Scorsese film. Seeing Goodfellas in the cinema is just one of those experiences where you're like, oh my goodness, this guy just spent 2 hours, 20 minutes blowing my mind. And, the visuals of it. But again, like I said, even visually, things are not as good in the cinema as they used to be. And that's because all the big chains just want to save money. They don't want to use 35 millimeter projectors. They use digital. Everything gets sort of washed out. And it's like watching TV.
An even bigger TV, yeah. I mean, no, that's a good example you give. Now, you see, in the Money Heist, I have watched now, it must be, I don't know how many episodes I've watched, but we're talking scores of hours. I have developed an intense interest in the characters. I'll be bereft when it finishes, and that I won't see them again. Ditto Goodfellas. You see, I'd have liked to watch 10 hours of Goodfellas rather than 2 hours. Spread out, the wife and I watch maybe 1, maybe 2 episodes of something per night. And we're looking forward to the next night to watch another 1 or 2 episodes. I would have liked to have done that with Goodfellas, but that form does not allow that.
That's true. And, that would be great to see. It's almost like, comparing a painter and a collage artist. They're two different things. So Scorsese is making this 2-hour compelling drama. And, if he were to do that in television, that would be, if you're doing multiple seasons, that could be 50 or 60 hours of entertainment that he could get into that sort of stuff. So that is really true. And I think everybody I speak to in the industry understands this. They understand that this shift is not going to go back, that people, and the other interesting thing about it is people can work more if you work in television like that, because they're not shooting like pilot season in the spring, things come out all the time, and you can work multiple. You have to, in many cases, work multiple series over the course of a year in order to make a living. And that just, and plus there's the audience craving for content. So, and we have Amazon Prime, we have Netflix, we have HBO Max, we have Apple TV Plus. All of these streaming services are just craving content because the audience just devours this stuff. They just devour it, and they're throwing money left and right at people to give them stuff to satiate their audience.
Well, you and I need to get together and offer them some content. But finally, is it the end for the cigar chomping big studio boss, the tyrannical rule of reign of the studios? That's over now, yeah?
Oh, I would say that will never go away. That's just the function of the type of people that Hollywood attracts. And so what you're seeing, Disney, again, a perfect example, they dominate the box office. I think Disney has, like 60% of the domestic box office. But now with Disney Plus, they dominate television as well. And so Netflix is the same way. So you're just getting a different type of cigar chomping studio boss. This sort of studio boss is now demanding, diversity and inclusion and sort of pushing a woke agenda, things like that. But they're just as domineering, and they're just as sort of depraved as always. They just cover it up a little bit.
Well, I was hoping you were going to say there'd be no more Harvey Weinsteins, but from what you say, they've just slimmed down a little.
Yeah, they've lost weight, and they're, I think, just better at what they do. Those people still exist, trust me.
Is the dough the same, the money the same? Do you get the same being a big actor on Netflix, a big director on Netflix, as you would have got as a cinema actor, director?
It's all about your power and your leverage. If you are somebody who has some swagger to you, you're going to get just as much money. Yeah, and you're going to have just as much control, and you can get multiple projects that you aren't that you're not directing, but maybe you're producing and things like that. So that's why you see, even Christopher Nolan, who was adamant about never wanting to go to a streaming service. He was all about cinema. Well, he's going to Netflix because they threw him a bunch of money and said, you can do whatever you want. And he said, great, that's what I'm looking for. And that's going to happen with everybody. And, Scorsese's done it. Spielberg has done it. All these people who are so adamant about maintaining the cinematic experience, they're going there because, the money is just as good and the control is even better. As in cinema, there's not that opportunity. Spielberg, a perfect example. Ridley Scott's another example of this great director who he had 2 movies come out this year, and they've done nothing. And one of them was pretty good, and it did nothing. It was $100 million budget. It was The Last Duel. It's a film I enjoyed. It's made $30 million,
Oof.
And the opportunity for those guys is going away, where the studios are not going to bankroll that sort of thing. But you can control it in a streaming setting, so that it can sit there and you get you can see how many people are watching it, you can see how many people join and things like that. So I think that's just the way of the future.
Where did it all go right? Thank you very much indeed, Michael, for joining us. I wish you the very best of years, and I hope that we get to talk many, many times in the course of this year about moving pictures wherever, however you consume them.